Tammin stood in the grand hall of the Valkyrie throne world, his hands clasped. Behind his back, the ceiling stretched, so high above him that he could barely see where it ended. Purple crystals lined the walls, glowing with a cold light that made everything look unreal. Next to him, Hyojin kept her face blank, but he could see the slight tension in her shoulders. They had been waiting for 2 hours, which was exactly what Emperor Vakrath wanted. Making them wait was a power move, a way to remind them that humans were small and unimportant. The massive doors at the far end of the hall finally opened. They made a deep, grinding sound that echoed through the chamber. Emperor Vakrath entered, floating on a platform that hummed with anti-gravity technology. He was twice the size of a human, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Behind him came High Admiral Thexus and a dozen other Valkyrie officials, all wearing ornate robes that marked their high status. Vakrath settled onto his throne, which was carved from a single piece of black stone, his eyes, all 3 of them, fixed on the 2 humans standing before him. Those eyes held nothing but contempt. Humans, Vakrath said, his voice booming through the hall. Do you understand why you have been summoned? Tammin bowed slightly, just enough to show respect without showing weakness. We received your message, Your Imperial Majesty. You have made certain demands of Earth and her colonies. Demands? Vakrath laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. No, human. These are not demands. This is mercy. This is the gracious offer of the Valkyrie Empire to save your pathetic species from destruction. Hyojin's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat, and she knew how to control her emotions. High Admiral Thexus stepped forward, holding a data tablet. The terms are simple. Earth will surrender administrative control of 70% of all human colony worlds. These colonies will be incorporated into the Valkyrie Empire. You will pay annual tribute of resources and goods. Your military will be disbanded except for local security forces approved by us. In exchange, the Empire will protect you from external threats. Protect us? Tammin asked calmly. From what threats? Thex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. From us, of course. If you do not accept these terms, the Empire will be forced to pacify human space. Your colonies will be taken by force. Your ships will be destroyed. Your people will be scattered. This is the fate of all species who refuse the Empire's generous offer. Vakrath leaned forward. On his throne, 47 species have come before you. 47 times we have made this offer. 47 times they have accepted. Do you know why? Because they were wise enough to understand their place in the galaxy. They understood that the Valkyrie Empire is eternal, unchanging, and unstoppable. Tammin said nothing for a long moment. He looked around the grand hall at the tapestries showing Valkyrie victories, at the statues of conquered alien leaders kneeling in submission. Everything about this place was designed to make visitors feel small and powerless. How long do we have to consider this offer? Tammin asked. Vakrath's eyes narrowed. Consider? There is nothing to consider. You will accept now, or you will face the consequences. With respect, Your Majesty, Tammin said, keeping his voice steady. A decision of this magnitude requires consultation with our government. Surely the great Valkyrie Empire can understand the need for proper procedure. For a moment the hall was silent, several of the Valkyrie officials whispered to each other, clearly surprised that the human was not immediately accepting or begging for mercy. Volkrath studied Tammin with his 3 eyes, trying to read the human's face. You're either very brave or very stupid, Volkrath finally said. I cannot decide which, perhaps both, Your Majesty, Tammin replied with a small smile. Something flickered in Volkrath's expression. It might have been amusement, or it might have been irritation. Very well, I'm feeling generous today. You will have 30 days to deliver Earth's response, 30 days to convince your leaders to accept reality. When you return, you will kneel before this throne and announce your surrender. This is the mercy of Volkrath, Emperor of the Valkyrie, master of 300 worlds, eternal ruler of the galactic East. Thank you, Your Majesty, Tammin said, bowing again. We will return in 30 days with Earth's answer. See that you do, Thexus said coldly, and understand this, humans. Those 30 days are not for negotiation. There is nothing to negotiate. You will accept our terms or you will be destroyed. There is no third option. This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be. Both waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. You are dismissed. Leave my sight. Tam and Hyjin bowed once more and turned to leave. As they walked across the vast hall toward the exit, Hyjin leaned slightly closer to Tammin. That went well, she whispered sarcastically. Better than I expected, Tam replied quietly. He gave us the 30 days. Do you think he suspects anything? No, he thinks we're like all the others, weak, helpless, ready to surrender. They passed through the massive doors and into the corridor beyond. Valkyrie guards watched them with obvious disdain as they made their way back to the diplomatic quarter where their ship was docked. Neither human spoke until they were safely inside their vessel with the doors sealed and the security systems activated. Hyjin immediately went to the communications console and began typing rapidly. Her fingers flew across the holographic keyboard as she composed an encrypted message. The encryption was something special, something the Valkyrie didn't know humans possessed. It would take them 1,000 years to crack it, if they even noticed it existed. What are you sending? Tammin asked, though he already knew. Protocol revelation, Hedge said. Authorization code midnight. Sky countdown 30 days. She pressed the final key and the message shot out into space, bouncing through a dozen relay stations before heading toward Earth. Within hours it would reach its destination. Within days, things would begin to move. Within 30 days, everything would change. Ta poured himself a drink from the ship's small bar and sat down heavily in a chair. The stress of maintaining his calm demeanor before Volkrath was finally hitting him. His hands were shaking slightly. 80 years, he said softly. 80 years of preparation. 80 years of pretending to be weak. 80 years of being insulted, dismissed, and threatened. And in 30 days they're going to learn the truth. Heen finished with the communications console and came to sit across from him. Do you think it will work? The plan, I mean all of it. It has to, Tammin said, because if it doesn't, everything we've built, everything we've sacrificed will be for nothing. Humanity will actually become what Volkrath thinks we already are. Slaves to the Valkyrie Empire. It will work, Hyjin said firmly. Admiral Dong Wu knows what he's doing. Jiyuan and her team have built something incredible. And most importantly, Vagrath has no idea what's coming. Tammin smiled for the first time since entering the throne hall. No, he really doesn't. None of them do. They see us as primitives who got lucky enough to develop faster than light travel. They have no idea what humans are truly capable of when we put our minds to something. 30 days, Piine said, raising her own glass. In 30 days, the galaxy changes forever, too. Revelation, Tam said, touching his glass. To hers, to revelation, she echoed. Outside the ship, the Valkyrie throne world continued its normal business, completely unaware that the countdown had begun, completely unaware that in 30 days their emperor would learn a lesson that would shake the foundations of his empire, completely unaware that humanity was not what it appeared to be. Message raced through space, jumping from relay to relay, carrying two simple words that would set everything in motion. Protocol revelation approved. The message from Tammin reached Earth 12 hours later. It bounced through the final relay station and arrived at the headquarters of the United Earth Space Navy, buried deep beneath the surface of Luna. Admiral Dongwu was in his office when the alert came through, a soft chime that most people would have ignored, but he had been waiting for this chime for 3 years, ever since Tai had been assigned to the Valkyrie throne world. He opened the message and read it twice. Protocol revelation approved. Countdown 30 days. Dongwu was 73 years old, but he felt suddenly young again. Full of energy and purpose, he pressed a button on his desk that would summon his senior staff. Within 10 minutes, his office was filled with the most important military leaders in human space. It's time, he said simply, and everyone in the room understood what that meant. Commander Sang Hyun, the director of intelligence, pulled up a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed the entire human territory, hundreds of star systems connected by lines of commerce and communication. But then Sanhun pressed another button, and the display changed. New dots appeared, hundreds of them scattered throughout human space and beyond. These are the Titan forges, Sang Hyun said. 400 shipyards hidden in asteroids, moons, and remote star systems. For 80 years we have been building in secret. The Valkyrie never suspected. How could they? They never thought to look closely at a species they had already dismissed as unimportant. The display zoomed in on one of the dots. It showed a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out, its interior transformed into a shipyard, capable of building vessels on a scale that most species could not imagine. Inside the asteroid, dozens of ships were visible, each one enormous. This is Forge Site 37, Sanghin continued. Just one of 400. Each forge has been producing carriers and support ships, according to the master plan, the plan that we began 80 years ago after our first encounter with the Valkyrie. Young Suk, the colonial defense coordinator, stood up. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for perfect planning. Let me tell the story properly, she said, because everyone in this room knows it, but we need to remember why we did all of this. She brought up another image, this one, showing Earth as it had been 80 years ago. In 2167, humanity made first contact with an alien species. We were excited. We thought we would find friends, trading partners, allies. Instead, we found the Valkyrie Empire. The image changed to show a small human exploration ship meeting a Valkyrie Warship. They laughed at us, they told us we were children playing with toys. They said that one day when we had expanded enough to be worth their attention, they would come and take everything we had built. They gave us a choice: surrender immediately or surrender later after they had destroyed half our colonies. As an example, we were not ready to fight. Young Suk continued. We had no military to speak of. Our ships were designed for exploration and trade, not war. We knew that if we fought then we would lose everything, so we made a decision, a hard decision. We agreed to their terms. We accepted their insults. We played the role of the weak, primitive species that was grateful for their mercy, but we did not stop there, she said, her voice growing harder. We made another decision. That same day, we decided that we would never be weak again. We decided that we would build in secret, slowly and carefully, until we were strong enough that no one could ever threaten us again. Admiral Dong Wu took over the presentation. We called it the Titan Forge Initiative. Every human colony dedicated 15% of its resources to the project. We built hidden shipyards in places where no one would think to look. We developed new technologies in secret laboratories. We trained millions of people in military skills, but we made it look like civilian work. To the rest of the galaxy, we appear to be a peaceful species focused on trade and exploration. And they believed it, Seung Hyun added. With a thin smile, they believed it because they wanted to believe it. Species like the Valkyrie need to believe they are superior. They need to believe that other species are weak, so when they saw us acting weak, they accepted it as truth. They never investigated further. Why would they? We were beneath their notice. Jiwon, the chief engineer of the entire Titan Forge project, stood up next. She was younger than they others, only 52, but she had spent her entire adult life working on this project. Let me show you what we built, she said. The holographic display changed again, this time showing a ship. But calling it a ship did not do it justice. It was enormous, stretching for 10 km from bow to stern. Its hull was covered in launch bays, each one capable of deploying fighters and bombers. Its surface bristled with point defense systems, rail guns, and missile tubes. This is a Titan-class space carrier, Jiwon said proudly. Each one can carry 2,000 fighters, 500 bombers, and 100 support craft. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Each one is powered by a fusion reactor that can run for 50 years without refueling. And each one is heavily armored, capable of taking punishment that would destroy any other ship in the galaxy. She paused, letting the image sink in. We have built 2,000 of them. The room was silent, even though everyone there knew the numbers. Hearing them spoken aloud still had power. 2,000 carriers, Jiwon repeated, each one supported by 7 escort ships, destroyers, cruisers, supply vessels, and repair ships. That gives us a total fleet of over 15,000 ships, the largest fleet in galactic history, larger than the Valkyrie fleet, larger than all the fleets of the Valkyrie subject species combined. Dong Wu brought up another display, this one showing ship designs from other species. The Valkyrie have been building the same types of ships for 1,000 years. They have not innovated because they have not needed to. They are so dominant that no one challenges them. But we studied their designs, we found the weaknesses, and we built ships specifically designed to defeat them. Our carriers are faster, he continued. Our fighters are more maneuverable, our weapons have longer range, our shields are more efficient, ship for ship we have the advantage, and we have more ships. Young Suk spoke again. The hard part was not building the fleet. The hard part was hiding it. We had to make sure that every person who worked on the project understood the importance of secrecy. We had to create cover stories. For the resources we were using, we had to make sure that our hidden shipyards looked like ordinary asteroids and moons, and most importantly, we had to make sure that we continued to appear weak to the rest of the galaxy. That meant accepting insults, Sang Hun said. It meant allowing Valkyrie ships to patrol our space without resistance. It meant pretending to be grateful when they protected us from pirates that they had probably sent themselves. It meant 80 years of swallowing our pride. But it worked, Dongwu said. When Tan went to the Valkyrie throne world, he reported that Velcro was completely confident. He gave us 30 days to surrender, certain that we would accept his terms like every other species before us. He has no idea what is coming. G1 pulled up a new display, this one showing a star map with multiple routes marked in different colors. All 2,000 carriers are currently scattered across human space, each one hidden at its construction site. On my signal, they will begin moving to the rendezvous point. The Halcyon expands deep in neutral space. It will take them 20 days to all arrive. They will arrive in a precise sequence designed to minimize the chance of detection. Once they are all gathered, we will have 10 days to prepare for the final revelation. What if the Valkyrie detect the movement? Someone asked. They will detect something. Sang Hun admitted it is impossible to move 15,000 ships without creating some gravitational disturbances, some energy signatures. But they will not understand what they are detecting. They will think it is natural phenomena or perhaps some human commercial activity. They will not investigate closely because, again, they do not think we are worth investigating. Dongwu stood up, his face serious. This is what we have been preparing for. This is the moment that will define humanity's future. If we succeed, we will secure our freedom and our safety for generations to come. If we fail, he did not finish the sentence. Everyone knew what failure would mean. We will not fail, Young Suk said firmly. We have spent 80 years on this. We have sacrificed too much, worked too hard, and planned too carefully to fail now. Then let us begin, Dongwu said. He looked at Jiwen. Give the order. Assemble the fleet. It is time they learned what humanity actually is. Gi nodded and turned to her console. Her fingers moved over the controls, sending out coded messages to 400 hidden locations across the galaxy. At each location, crews who had been waiting for this moment sprang into action. Massive doors opened in asteroids and moons. Engines that had been cold for years roared to life. Ships that had been hidden in darkness moved into the light. The Titan fleet was awakening, and in 30 days the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Jae-hyun stood on the bridge of the carrier Tiguk and watched as his ship emerged from the hollow asteroid that had been its home for 23 years. The massive hangar doors had opened smoothly despite not having moved in over 2 decades. Jiwen's engineering teams had done excellent work. The Tiguk was one of the first carriers to leave its hiding place as the ship cleared the asteroid. Juan felt a mix of emotions, pride, certainly fear definitely, but most of all he felt ready. He had been training for this moment since he was 25 years old. Now at 48 he was finally going to see if all that training meant anything. All systems showing green, reported his executive officer, a efficient woman named Suman, engines at full power. Navigation plotted for the Heian expanse. We can jump to faster than light speed. On your command. Hold position, Juan said. We wait for our escorts, one by one. 7 more ships emerged from hidden bays in the same asteroid, 3 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and 2 supply ships. Together they formed Battle Group Tuck, one of 2,000 such groups that were emerging from hiding across the galaxy. Battle Group formed and ready, Suman reported, all ships reporting ready for jump. Take us to the rendezvous, Juan ordered. Space folded around the 8 ships and they disappeared in a flash of twisted light. When they reappeared, they were in the empty space between star systems, racing toward a destination that only a handful of humans knew existed. The Heian expanse was not really empty. Space was never truly empty, but it was as close as made. No difference, no stars shone here, only the distant light of galaxies far away. No planets orbited, no asteroids tumbled. It was a vast bubble of nothing, which made it perfect for what humanity needed, a place where 2,000 carriers and their escorts could gather without being seen. Juan's battle group was among the first to arrive, but they were not alone. Already 50 other carriers hung in the darkness, their running lights dimmed to almost nothing. As he watched, more appeared, flashing into existence, and carefully coordinated jumps. It's beautiful, Suman whispered. She was right. Each carrier was a masterpiece of engineering and design. They were not built to look pretty, but there was an elegance to their form. They were built for function, for war, but that function had created its own kind of beauty. Below the main bridge, in one of Tuck's many fighter bays, Lieutenant Mi was conducting final checks on her fighter. She was a pilot, one of 2,000 aboard this single carrier. Across the fleet, there were 4 million pilots just like her, 4 million people who had trained in secret, who had learned to fly in remote locations where no outsiders could see. Mi ran her hand along the side of her fighter. It was a sleek machine, smaller than the Valkyrie fighters she had studied, but faster and more agile. It carried fewer weapons, but made up for it with superior targeting systems and better maneuverability. In simulations she had fought against AI opponents programmed to fly like Valkyrie pilots. She had won 70% of those fights, but simulations were not real combat. Real combat was unpredictable. Real combat was terrifying. MJI tried not to think about that too much. You ready for this? Asked her wingman, a cheerful pilot named Hunwoo. As ready as I'll ever be, Mi replied. I was born ready, Hyan Wu said with a grin. Then his expression became more serious. Actually, I'm scared, but I'm ready. That's the right attitude, MJI said. Anyone who isn't scared is too stupid to fly. They both laughed, breaking the tension around them. Other pilots were doing the same thing, checking their fighters, talking to each other, trying to stay calm. They all knew what was coming. In less than 2 weeks, they would face the Valkyrie Empire. Everything would change. On the flagship of the fleet, a massive carrier named Indomitable, Admiral Dong Wu watched the gathering through the ship's sensor displays. Ships continued to arrive every hour, sometimes every few minutes. The coordination required was staggering. Each battle group had to time its arrival perfectly to avoid collisions in the crowded space. Boram, the flagship's communications officer, was working non-stop to manage the incoming traffic. Battle Group Chunmo arriving, she announced. Battle Group Aegis arriving. Battle Group Thunder arriving, sir. We're up to 800 carriers now. No incidents, no detection by outside forces. Excellent, Dong Wu said. Maintain our position. Continue guiding ships to their assigned zones. The Heian expanse was large, but even it had limits. 2,000 carriers and their escorts required careful positioning. Each battle group was assigned to a specific zone arranged in a three-dimensional formation that would allow them to move quickly when the time came. On the third day of the gathering, something unexpected happened. A Valkyrie scout ship appeared at the edge of the expanse. Contact, Boram shouted. Valkyrie vessel, bearing 27 Mark 6. Distance 50 million km. They're scanning the area. Every human on the Indomitable's bridge tensed. This was the nightmare scenario. If the Valkyrie discovered the fleet now before everyone had arrived, the entire plan would collapse. Are we in their sensor range? Dongwu asked calmly. Unknown, sir, replied the sensor officer. We're running dark, but with this many ships, there's bound to be some gravitational distortion they could detect. Do not power weapons, Dongwu ordered. Do not change our energy signature. Send a message to all ships. Maintain stealth protocols. No one moves. The bridge was silent as they watched the Valkyrie scout ship. It drifted slowly through space, its sensors sweeping back and forth. Minutes passed like hours. They're detecting something, Boram reported. I'm picking up increased scanning activity. Hold position, Dongwu repeated. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. The Valkyrie scout ship moved closer. Then it stopped. For a long moment it simply hung in space, as if confused by what its sensors were telling it. Finally it turned away and jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from the area. The entire bridge let out a collective breath. They didn't see us, someone asked in disbelief. They saw something, Dongwu said, but they didn't understand what they saw. To them, it probably looked like a natural gravitational anomaly, something strange but not threatening, not worth investigating. That was too close, Suman said quietly. Yes, it was, Dongwu agreed. But it also shows us something important. The Valkyrie are not expecting us. They are not looking for us. When they see something unusual, they dismiss it because the idea of a human fleet this large is beyond their imagination. Over the next 2 weeks, more carriers continued to arrive. The fleet grew from hundreds to over 1,000, then to 1,500, then to 1,800. Each arrival was a small miracle of timing and coordination. Juan spent his time preparing his crew. They ran drills constantly, practicing launch procedures and combat formations. The Tagux 2000 fighters could be deployed in less than 30 minutes, a feat that required perfect coordination between dozens of flight crews. Minji and her fellow pilots practiced as well. They flew simulations until they could execute combat maneuvers in their sleep. They studied Valkyrie tactics until they could predict how the enemy would respond to any situation. On the 23rd day, the final carrier arrived. Borum's voice rang out. Across the flagship's bridge, Admiral. Battle Group Horizon has arrived. All 2,000 carriers are now present. All escorts are present. Total fleet count 15,247. Ships. Dongwu stood up and looked at the main display. It showed the entire fleet, a cloud of ships that stretched for millions of kilom, the largest military force ever assembled by humanity, possibly the largest military force ever assembled by any species in galactic history. Send a message to all ships, Dongwu said. Fleet is at full strength. Maintain current positions. Await further orders. That evening, a message arrived from Tame on the Valkyrie throne world. It was brief. We are ready on this end. Show them. Dongwu called his senior officers together in the conference room. We have 7 days until the deadline, he said. 7 days until Tamon delivers our answer to Emperor Vakreth. We will spend those 7 days in final preparations. Check every system, review every plan, make sure every crew member knows their role. He paused, looking at each officer in turn. For 80 years we have hidden. We have endured insults. We have been dismissed as weak and primitive. In 7 days all of that changes. In 7 days we reveal ourselves, and the galaxy will learn what humanity truly is. For Earth, someone said softly. For humanity, another added. For freedom, said a third. Dongwu nodded. For all of those things, and most importantly, for the future, our children and their children will live in a galaxy where humans are respected, not because we are feared, but because we have proven that we cannot be pushed around, that we will not surrender, that we are strong. He turned back to the display showing the fleet. Send the message to all ships. For the next 7 days, we prepare and then we move. The Valkyrie throne world will see something they never expected to see. They will see the full might of humanity, and Emperor Vakreth will learn that his empire is not as eternal as he believes. Outside the conference room, across the fleet, millions of human men and women continued their work. The 30 days had passed. Tamon stood once again in the grand hall of Emperor Vakreth. But this time he was not alone. Behind him stood not just Hedgen, but 20 other human diplomats and officials. They had been allowed to bring witnesses, and they had brought the maximum number permitted. The hall was packed. Every important official wanted to be present for what they assumed would be humanity's surrender. High Admiral Thex stood near the throne, a satisfied smile on his face. The Valkyrie court members whispered to each other, making bets on how quickly the humans would kneel. Emperor Vakreth sat on his throne, looking even more imposing than he had 30 days earlier. His 3 eyes gleamed with anticipation. This was a moment he enjoyed, the moment when another species accepted his dominance. Humans. Vakreth boomed. You have returned. I trust you. Bring the answer I expect. Tamon stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his face showed nothing but calm. Your Imperial Majesty, I bring Earth's official response to your ultimatum. Excellent, Vakreth said. You may kneel and deliver your surrender with respect, Your Majesty, Tamon said. Clearly, I will not kneel, and I do not bring surrender. I bring Earth's formal rejection of your terms. Humanity respectfully declines your ultimatum. The hall went silent. It was as if every Valkyrie in the room had stopped, breathing at the same time. Then the silence broke, replaced by shocked murmurs and angry growls. Bokrath leaned forward, his three eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" I said. "We decline," Tammin repeated, "Earth and her colonies will not surrender any territory. We will not pay tribute. We will not disband our military. We choose to remain free and independent." The Emperor and LT Unk and GT skin changed color, shifting from its normal oily shimmer to a darker, angrier hue. His forearms tensed, gripping the armrests of his throne. "You dare refuse the Valkyrie Empire, you, a species of primitives who barely understand the technology you use. You dare defy me." "We do," Tammin said simply. Thexus stepped forward, his voice full of cold fury. "Then you have chosen death. The Empire will crush your colonies. We will destroy your ships. We will make an example of Earth that the galaxy will remember for 10,000 years." "I do not think you will," Tammin said behind him. Jin was smiling slightly. "You do not think," Vrath roared, "you do not think I have conquered 47 species. I command the largest fleet in the galaxy. What could possibly make you think you can stand against me?" Tammin reached into his pocket slowly, making sure his movements were clear so the guards would not shoot him. He pulled out a small device and held it up. "May I show you something?" "Your Majesty, show me your surrender document," Vakra snarled. "Show me nothing else. I think you will want to see this," Tammin said. He activated the device and a holographic display appeared in the center of the hall. It showed a star map of the region around the Valkyrie throne world. At first the display showed nothing unusual, just stars and planets in the normal traffic of ships, but then Tammin pressed another button and the display changed. 2,000 new contacts appeared on the map. They were approaching the Valkyrie system from multiple directions. Each contact represented a massive energy signature, the kind of signature that only capital ships produced. "What is this?" Thexus demanded. "What trick are you playing?" "No trick," Hijin said, speaking for the first time. "Those are our ships. United Earth Space Navy, all of it." Vakrath stared at the display. His three eyes moved from contact to contact, counting. "Impossible. This display must be false. You could not have this many ships. We would know. We would have detected them." "Your Majesty," one of the Valkyrie sensor technicians called out from a side chamber, "I'm receiving reports from our orbital defense stations. They're detecting the same contacts, multiple capital ships entering the system. The signatures are confirmed real." The color drained from Vakrath's skin. He looked at Thexus, who was frantically working on his own data tablet, trying to confirm what he was seeing. 2,000 carriers, Tammin said calmly, each one capable of deploying 2,000 fighters, each one supported by escort ships. Over 15,000 ships in total. They are currently establishing a blockade around your system. They are not attacking, not yet, but they are. "Hear how?" Bokrath whispered, then louder. "How? Where did you build them?" "We have scouts throughout your territory. We have spies in your colonies." "How did we not know?" "Because you were not looking," Tammin said. "You dismissed us as primitives. You assumed we were weak because we acted weak. You never thought to investigate more closely, because why would you? We were beneath your notice." Jin activated another display, this one showing images of the hidden forges, asteroids opening to reveal massive shipyards, moons with entire cities built underground, dedicated to producing weapons and ships, remote star systems filled with construction facilities for 80 years. We have been building, she said, ever since your empire first contacted us and told us we would one day be conquered. We decided that day that we would never allow that to happen, so we built in secret, slowly, carefully, while you laughed at us and called us primitive. We were becoming the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Thews was staring at his tablet, his face showing pure shock. Your Majesty, our analysis confirms it. Those ships are real. The fleet composition is it's larger than our entire navy, larger than all the navies of our subject species combined. How did they? I don't understand. You don't understand because you never tried to understand, Tammin said. You assumed that because we were peaceful we were weak. You assumed that because we did not threaten you, we could not threaten you. You were wrong. Vokreth stood up from his throne, his forearms shaking with rage. This is an act of war. You bring a fleet to my throne world and expect me to simply accept it. I will mobilize every ship in the Empire. I will call in forces from every subject species. You may have numbers, but we have experience. We have fought 1,000 battles, and we have studied every one of those battles. Higgins said, we know your tactics. We know your weaknesses. We have designed our ship specifically to defeat yours. Ship for ship, we have the advantage. And we have more ships. She pulled up another display, this one showing comparative analysis. Felkari fighters versus human fighters. Felari capital ships versus human carriers. Every comparison showed human superiority. Your ships are designed for dominance against weaker opponents, she continued. They are built to intimidate, to overwhelm through show of force. Our ships are built for one purpose, to defeat the Valkyrie Empire. We have spent 80 years preparing for this exact scenario. The hall was in chaos now. Valkyrie officials were shouting, arguing, demanding answers. Some called for immediate attack, others urged caution. Thews was trying to coordinate with the military, but it was clear from his expression that the news was not good. Tammin raised his voice to be heard over the noise. Your Majesty, if I may have your attention. Slowly the hall quieted. Vikrath sat back down on his throne, his three eyes fixed on Timon, with an expression that was part rage, part fear, and part something else. Respect, perhaps, or at least recognition that he had underestimated these humans. We did not come here to destroy your empire, Tammin said. We came here to ensure our freedom. We came here to show you that humanity cannot be bullied, cannot be conquered, cannot be dismissed. We are not asking for war. We are asking for peace, but peace on equal terms. Equal terms, Vokreth said. Quietly, his voice had lost its thunder. He sounded tired, suddenly older. You bring an army to my doorstep and speak of peace. Yes, Tammin said, because we do not want to fight. We never wanted to fight, but we will fight if we must. We are prepared to go to war with your entire empire if that is what it takes to remain free, but we would prefer another path. Higgins stepped forward. Your empire has ruled through fear for 1,000 years. You have conquered species after species, always assuming that your power was unmatched. Today you learned that assumption was false. Today, you learned that there is a species that will not bow, will not surrender, will not accept your dominance. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have a choice, Your Majesty. You can fight us, you can try to destroy our fleet. Maybe you will succeed, though I doubt it, but even if you win, the cost will be enormous. Your fleets will be shattered, your economy will collapse. Your subject species, seeing that you can be challenged, will rise up. Your empire will fall, or Vakreth asked quietly, or you can accept reality. Tammin said, you can acknowledge that humanity is not a species to be conquered. You can negotiate with us as equals. You can begin the process of transforming your empire from a tyranny into something better, something that can coexist with species who will not submit. Thexus spoke up, his voice desperate. Your Majesty, we cannot simply accept this. They have threatened us. They have brought an army. Silence, Vagreth said softly. Thexus immediately stopped talking, shocked by the tone in the Emperor and Lt. Unc and GT's voice. Bokrath stood up and walked down from his throne. He approached Tammin slowly, his three eyes studying the human's face. Tammin stood his ground, not backing away, not showing fear. 80 years, Vagreth said. For 80 years you prepared for this moment. You let us insult you. 3 months had passed since that day in the throne hall. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted, and yet in some ways everything was exactly as humanity had planned. The standoff had ended without a single shot being fired. Emperor Vakra, after 7 days of consultation with his advisors and military commanders, had accepted reality. He could not defeat the human fleet. Even if he could, the cost would destroy his empire, so he had agreed to negotiate. The negotiations were being held in neutral space aboard a specially constructed station that orbited a dead star. The location had been chosen carefully. It was far from both Valkyrie and human territory, and it was visible to everyone. The galaxy was watching. President Kyong-su of the United Earth government sat at one side of the massive conference table. He was 79 years old, with white hair and a calm expression that revealed nothing of what he was thinking. Next to him sat Admiral Dongwu Tam Min and a dozen other human officials. Across from them sat Emperor Vakreth, looking smaller, somehow less imposing. With him were Thews and his own advisors, but they were not alone. Representatives from 47 other species filled the rest of the conference room. All of the species that the Valkyrie had conquered over the centuries. They had been invited by humanity to participate in the negotiations. Many of them were shocked to even be here. For some, it was the first time in generations that they had been allowed to speak freely. Kaungu stood up to address the room. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. We are here today to discuss the future, he said. Not just the future of humanity and the Valkyrie Empire, but the future of all species represented in this room. For too long the galaxy has been ruled by fear and domination. That era ends today. Bok's 3 eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. He had agreed to this conference. He would hear what the humans had to say. Humanity's terms are simple, Kaunsu continued. First, the Valkyrie Empire will sign a treaty of mutual non-aggression with Earth and all her colonies. Neither side will attack the other. Neither side will interfere in the other's internal affairs. Vakreth nodded slowly. He had expected this. Second, all borders will be opened. Valkyrie citizens may travel freely in human space, and human citizens may travel freely in Valkyrie space. Trade will be encouraged, cultural exchange will be promoted, that is acceptable, Bokrath said carefully. Third Kaunsu said, and his voice became harder, the Valkyrie Empire will pay reparations to every species it has conquered, not money, not resources, but freedom. Every species here will be granted full independence if they choose it. They will be allowed to govern themselves, to control their own military, to make their own decisions. The room erupted. The representatives from the subject species began talking excitedly, unable to believe what they were hearing. Some were crying, others were shouting in joy. The Vari advisors were shouting too, but in anger and protest. Thexus stood up, his face twisted with rage. That is unacceptable. You are demanding that we dismantle our empire. You are asking us to surrender everything we have built. No, Tammin said calmly, we are asking you to transform your empire from a prison into a partnership. The species in this room do not need to leave the empire, but they need to have the choice, and if they choose to stay, it should be because they want to, not because they are forced. Brath raised one of his four hands, and the room gradually quieted. He looked at the human president for a long moment. And if we refuse these terms, then you choose war, Kaungu said simply, and you will lose, not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but eventually you will lose. Because you will be fighting not just humanity, but every species that sees us as an example, every species that realizes they do not have to accept your rule. Your empire will collapse from within. You would destroy everything, Vagrath said quietly. No, Kaungu replied, we would free everyone. There is a difference. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Vagrath stood up. He looked old suddenly, the weight of his thousand-year empire pressing down on him. I'm the 47th emperor of the Valkyrie, he said. For 30 generations my family has ruled this empire. We have believed that we were bringing order to chaos, civilization to barbarians. We believed that our rule was necessary, that without us the galaxy would descend into war. He paused, his three eyes moving across the faces of the species he had ruled. Some looked at him with hate, others with pity, all with a new sense of power, knowing that the old order was ending. Perhaps we were wrong, Volkreth continued. Perhaps order can exist without domination. Perhaps civilization can exist without conquest. The humans have shown us that there is another way, a harder way. Perhaps a way that requires patience and planning rather than force, but a way that works. He turned to Kyong-su. I accept your terms. The Valkyrie Empire will grant independence to any species that requests it. We will pay reparations as you have outlined. We will open our borders and sign your treaty. The room erupted again, this time in celebration. Representatives from dozens of species rushed forward, wanting to shake human hands, wanting to thank them. Some wanted to speak with Volkrath to confirm that this was real, that they were truly free. But Kaung-su raised his hand, calling for quiet. There is one more term, he said. Valkyrie Empire must transform itself from an absolute monarchy into constitutional system with representation from all species. Emperor Vrath may remain as emperor, but his power must be checked by a council that includes voices from across the empire. Vokrath's expression flickered. This was harder to accept than the others. This was asking him to give up his absolute power. Why, he asked, why do you care? How I govern my own people, because without this change, nothing else will. Last Tamman said, you may grant independence today, but without systemic change, your successors will simply reconquer these species in a generation or two. Real change requires changing the system itself. Bokith was silent for a long time. His advisors whispered urgently to him, but he waved them away. Finally he nodded. Very well, the Valkyrie Empire will become a constitutional monarchy. I will remain as emperor, but I will share power with a council. Is that sufficient? It is a beginning, Kaungu said. Over the next 6 weeks the details were worked out. Representatives from every species contributed to the new galactic order. Some species chose full independence immediately, others chose to remain part of a reformed Vari Empire, but with guaranteed rights and representation. A few chose to form alliances with humanity. Sunhai, humanity's humanitarian coordinator, led teams to worlds that had been devastated by Valkyrie conquest. She brought medical supplies, food, and experts who could help rebuild. She also brought something more important: respect. She listened to the people on these worlds, understood their needs, and helped them on their own terms. Wu Jin, the cultural liaison officer, established exchange programs. Young Valkyrie came to Earth to study. Young humans went to the Valkyrie throne world. Art and music and ideas flowed between species that had once been enemies. It was slow work, changing centuries of hatred and fear, but it was necessary work. Admiral Dongwu began the process of decommissioning 40% of the human fleet. The carriers that had won the peace without firing a shot were being converted to civilian use. Some became exploration ships, others became massive cargo haulers. A few were being turned into mobile universities, traveling the galaxy and sharing human knowledge. But 60% of the fleet remained active because, while the Valkyrie had been humbled, there were other threats in the galaxy, other empires that might need to learn the same lesson humanity had learned, that peace required strength, and they would not forget that lesson. Jae Hyun was among those who continued to serve. His carrier Tuke patrolled the borders of human space, a reminder to anyone watching that humanity was no longer a species to be dismissed. Me had become an instructor, teaching new pilots the skills they would need. Most would never fight a real battle, and she was glad of that, but they needed to be ready just in case. On Earth, in the depths of the United Earth Space Navy headquarters, Jiwon was already working on new projects. The Titan Forge initiative had succeeded beyond anyone's dreams, but she was not satisfied. There were always new technologies to develop, new ships to design, not because humanity wanted war, but because humanity needed to be ready for anything. One evening, Tamman returned to Earth for the first time in 4 years. He stood in his apartment in Seoul, looking out at the city lights. His communication device chimed. It was a message from an unexpected source. Ambassador Tamman, the message read, "This is Emperor Vakra. I wanted to thank you personally for your role in the negotiations. You could have humiliated me, you could have destroyed everything I built. Instead, you offered a path to transformation. It is not easy accepting that my empire was built on injustice, but it is necessary. Perhaps in time The Valkyrie will be remembered not for what we conquered, but for what we became after we learned we could be. Challenged, I hope we can meet again. Not as enemies, but as colleagues. Respectfully, Vokrath. Tammin smiled and sent a brief reply. Your Majesty, chain is never easy, but it is always possible. I look forward to our next meeting.